الخلائق الأجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء حبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد ثم الصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما ولي الله الحجة ابن الحسن صاحب الأمر والزمان روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة، يا غريب الغرباء، يا مظلوم كربلاء، السلام على من جعل الله الشفاء في تربته، السلام على من الإجابة تحت قبته، السلام على ساكن كربلاء، فيا ليتنا ثم يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي يا سادتي، فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أما الله سبحانه أما بعد، قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الحكيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون. صدق الله العلي العظيم وآمنا به. نوروا مجالسكم بذكر محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Ahibbai, over the last few nights we've been discussing concepts, and one of the concepts that we came across is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us for a purpose. We have not been created in vain. And we went on to quote the verse of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I did not create the entire jinn and the mankind except that they should live a life of servitude towards me. Yani to be an abd, ubudiyya, to submit to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every moment of your life. And as a result, you find that we are in need of guides, divinely selected prophets and divinely selected imams who outline for us this code of conduct and give us its details and explain all the intricacies involved with this code of conduct known as a deen, because it is only through the compliance of the deen, it is only through your compliance with the deen that you can fulfill the purpose of your existence and achieve eternal prosperity. For with the divine selection of imams and the divine selections of the prophets, you have in front of you a deen and a system. And you find that it's very easy to say, I am Muslim. It's very easy to say, I am Shia. It's very easy to say, I am a lover of Ahlul Bayt, or I'm a believer in one God. And perhaps thousands and millions of people make this claim in this day and age and have been making this claim ever since the beginning of human history. For you find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala outlines for us a falsafa within the Quran, which is the falsafa of imtihanat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Ankabut, and the beginning verses, says Alif Lam Mim, beginning with the huruf al-muqatta'at. And why Allah Azza wa Jalla uses these arrangements of the alphabets in this manner is from the secrets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For you find that Allah makes this declaration in Surah Al-Ankabut, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alif Lam Mim. أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون. Allah says, do the believers think that just because they have said we believe, we shall not subject them to a test? Over here the word which is used, yuftanun, derived from the word fitna. The word fitna has multiple connotations. And in Shahr Ramadan we touched upon the context and the usage of the word fitna within the Quran and derived close to 15 or 17 meanings. But one of the meanings of the word fitna is imtihan. You'll find many places within the Quran and many places within the Hadith, the word imtihan, fitna and the Quran are used, the word fitna, imtihan and bala are used to mean examinations, yani tests. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will subject you to a series of difficulties. And the goal behind these difficulties is to separate the one who is truthful in his claim towards Islam and the Iman from the one who is untruthful to his claim of Islam and the Iman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is the sunnah ilahiyya, that He subjects you to certain imtihanat and the fitnas and the bala, where you are at a cross junction and you need to make a decision. In the face of these difficulties, do you abide by your religion? Do you abide by your principles? Or do you submit to the pressures and the challenges and forsake your deen? The imtihan is here. And the falsafa of this imtihan, to separate those who are truthful from those who are untruthful. This is a divine declaration. Sunnah ilahiyya. From the time of Nabi Adam until the time of the Dhukur, you find that the world is not free of this imtihan. The mu'mineen and the muslimin are not free of this imtihan. Ya subhanallah, this Surah Al-Ankabut, which is mustahab to recite on Laylatul Qadr, the night when divine decrees are being established by Allah and sent upon the Waliyul Amr to seal. Allahu Akbar. For you find that it is absolutely important for us that enter Janabak, if you know that you have been created for a purpose and you can only actualize the purpose of your existence through the compliance of deen or through your compliance towards the deen, you also need to know that there is another stage within this journey of attaining spiritual perfection and completion, and that is that you are subject to a number of imtihanat. If a person is not aware that he is going to be subject to a series of imtihanat, the chances of him passing are minimal, because he doesn't know of the existence of that test to begin with. And hence the lack of preparation and the lack of that skill set and knowledge and the iman and the yaqeen that would suffice him during the time of this imtihan. فَأَنْتَ يَا أَخِي, have absolute yaqeen in your mind that from the time you said Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, from the time you said Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, from the time you said Ashhadu anna Aliyan waliyullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to subject you to a number of imtihanat in your lives to see whether you are truthful in your claim or not. To say Aliyun Waliyullah with the tongue is very easy. Everybody says it. Millions of people say it. But when push comes to shove and you reach a crunch in your life and sacrifice is needed, are you still willing to say Aliyun Waliyullah? This is the real iman. And you find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within the Quran outlines for us, and the Amir al-Mu'mineen within Nahj al-Balagha outlines for us, and the Ahlul Bayt in general within the literature of hadith that has reached us. They have outlined a series of imtihanat and the bala and the fitan that we will be subjected to in order to establish to ourselves before to anybody else whether we are truthful in our claims or not. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, in Surah Al-Baqarah states, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a declaration, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ, we are going to put you through a series of imtihanat that are endorsed and surrounded with difficulties. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ, the lam at the beginning of the word nablu, from the derivative of bala, lam yani lam al-qasam, lam al-tawqeed. Allah is saying without doubt, enter. You said Ali Waliyullah, you claim to be a lover of Ali, you claim to be a follower in Tawheed, you are going to be subjected to imtihan in 5 different avenues and aspects of your life. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَمِنَ الْجُوعِ. Allah is going to test you with fear. Khawf. During times of fear, do we abide by the principles of our religion, or do we abandon the religion? Within the tafsir, khawf, yani khawf from the sultanul ja'ir, khawf from the oppressors and the dictators, when they are in pursuit of your life and they're going to end your life or execute you at that time, when you were faced with the choice that I either uphold my iman and my aqidah, or do I protect my life? وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ. Look at the choices Mitham al-Tammar made. Mitham al-Tammar, we mentioned it a few nights back. Look at the choices that Muhammad ibn Umayr made. Muhammad ibn Abi Umayr. Muhammad ibn Abi Umayr, one of the companions of Imam al-Qadim and Imam Rida. He was arrested by the Abbasid forces and imprisoned. And they tortured him to such an extent, such that he would give out information in regards to the activities of Imam al-Qadim and the followers of Imam al-Qadim and sell them out. They say the historians in his biography, if you refer back to the books of Rijal, Muhammad ibn Abi Umayr, when they were tortured in prison, they were beaten with wooden sticks that would be perhaps the size of 2 palms. The width of this wooden stick, and the wooden stick would have nails pierced from the back, and the nail would be protruding out. They would be whipped, or they would be slashed with wooden sticks with nails protruding on their backs. Perhaps if a person was hit once on his back with this, perhaps he would die of the pain. Perhaps he would faint from the pain. Perhaps he would denounce his entire religion. Muhammad ibn Abi Umayr was slashed 1,000 times with this. Bila shak, our Ahlul Bayt have given us guidelines and have taught us about taqiyya. And taqiyya is an important aspect of the deen, a fundamental aspect of the deen. The one who doesn't practice taqiyya is not from us, or doesn't know anything from the religions of our fathers. Imam al-Sadiq says, Bila shak, but taqiyya has shurut. Taqiyya has conditions. If a person applies hadith of taqiyya in a surrounding where the conditions of taqiyya are not in place, karitha, and vice versa. And furthermore, taqiyya does not entail giving up your faith. La ya akhi. Taqiyya is about not demonstrating your faith under certain conditions. That somebody says, because I'm going to lose out on my friend's circle, taqiyya. Losing out on friend's circle is from the conditions of Allah. So ilm, we said from the very beginning, ilm and ilm. If a person tries to decipher within this field of religion and try to apply theories and concepts without having the right prerequisites, leads himself towards deviation. Khawf is not necessarily restricted to these extreme situations where your life is at risk. La. Ya akhi, sometimes khawf in terms of fear from social pressures, particularly at a time like this, where you have, for example, rising cases of Islamophobia, enter janabak. You have, all human beings have this feeling that, and these sentiments that they want to be a part of a greater social structure. Every human being wants to be a part of the wider social community. But there is an imtihan. Are you willing to hold on to your faith and your principles? Or do the fears of social pressure and social rejection overcome you such that you abandon your faith altogether? With all due respect, with our brothers and with our sisters, particularly for the sisters, and it is a time that is difficult and a jihad that masha'Allah that they perform mashkoorun insha'Allah, but the concept of hijab in the West, ya akhi, we as a community have become so weak and have been plagued with inferiority complex to the extent that even the right hijab, even the understanding of moderate hijab is dictated to us by the non-Shi'i or the non-Muslim. Enti, you have a choice to come out of the house with the hijab of Sayyidah Zahra and the hijab of Sayyidah Zainab. To follow in their footsteps. And then you have the choice of the hijab or the understanding of hijab which is imposed upon us by atheistic people, atheistic institutions and understandings. And you have a choice. Do you uphold the hijab of Sayyidah Zainab? Or do you compromise it in the face of pressures and in this desperate need to be socially accepted? It's a choice, it's an imtihan, khawf. Same thing with the men. In terms of our dressing, in terms of our behaviors. Definition of sectarianism. Does it mean that if you abide by the teachings of Ahlul Bayt and refuse to compromise on the haqq, that Amirul Mu'mineen is the wasi and the wali of Rasulullah bila fasl? Does this make you sectarian? As per the Quran, as per the Hadith, abiding by your faith, ya akhi, does not necessitate being aggressive. Just because you don't compromise on your values should not necessitate lack of tolerance. But the issue is drawing this line where you give up your faith to try and integrate imtihan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ. All types of fears, we shall test you with fear. Whether it is fear on your life, whether it is fear through military attacks, or whether it is psychological warfare and the fear incited through communal and societal pressures. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَمِنَ الْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ. Allah says we will test you with hunger and we will test you with a decrease in wealth. Ya akhi, in this day and age, within the structure and the economic structure that we live in, and the pressures of surviving in an economy that is going through recession, every day you have a choice. Either you make your income and your rizq in a manner which is halal or in a manner which is haram. Every day you are faced with a choice that if you are honest in the way that you earn money, you will earn lesser as compared to if you were to be involved in a riba and in theft and in deceit in all its forms. Definitely you would make an extra buck or two much quicker. Your standard of living increases the more you compromise your faith, as opposed to being content and sufficient with a little, but as long as your iman is secure. These are choices that we need to make, and these are choices that we are exposed to on an ongoing everyday basis. Basically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you, Ya akhi, opportunity cost for you. Those who are economists, what is the opportunity cost to giving up your religion? Or the opportunity cost of gaining more wealth when it is at the expense of your religion? For these are choices that you are faced with. Every day you have a choice. Either you can earn money through halal or you can earn money through haram. Amir al-Mu'mineen in Nahjul Balagha speaks about the difficulties of the Akhir al-Zaman, where he says about this last final day and age, وَتَكُونُوا فيها ضربة السيف على المؤمن أحون من الدرهم من حله. There will come a time where for a mu'min it is easier for him to sustain the strike of a sword than to earn a single dirham out of halal. Ya akhi, tax fraud, charity fraud, name it, whatever you want. MashaAllah, Iblis always allows us and helps us to justify what we're doing. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَمِنَ الْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ. امتحانات يا أخي. بعد a person cannot gain proximity towards Allah in his ibadah if his rizq is earned from means that are haram to begin with. Yani you worship Allah with a body, and this body is made up of flesh and blood which you have nourished through money that was haram to begin with. The effect of haram food, ya akhi, on the body has a connection with the soul. How you treat your body has an impact on your soul, and how you treat your soul has an impact on your body. On the day of Ashura, Imam al-Hussein addressed the army of Yazid, addressed the army of Umar ibn Sa'd and Shimr, Lu'ana, gave them 2 khutbahs, delivered 2 khutbahs. Habib delivered the khutbah, Burayd delivered the khutbah. Imam al-Hussein performed 2 mu'jizat, 2 miracles for them to believe in him and to change. Despite this, Umar ibn Sa'd and Shimr and their likes, they were not affected by the hidayah granted by Imam al-Hussein. Why? Ya akhi, you would think that if somebody is on the wrong today, if I'm a sinner, I'm on the wrong path, if a Ma'soom Imam came and performed a miracle for me, that this miracle would have an impact on my mind and in my heart. Sahih Allah. What ugly crimes had these enemies of Imam al-Hussein performed on the day of Ashura, such that even a mu'jiza was not sufficient to guide them to the right path, in addition to the logic. And Imam al-Hussein rebuked them. Said, what is wrong with you? Do you know what the reason was? Imam al-Hussein says to Umar ibn Sa'd, all this guidance and all this hidayah that I am granting towards you, you are irresponsive to this guidance. Why? لَقَدْ مُلِئَتْ بُطُونَكُمْ بِالْحَرَامِ. Your stomachs are filled with food that is haram, and hence it has no impact on your minds. Neither can you hear or near can you see. You are not responsive to this guidance. The rizq that we feed ourselves and the rizq that we feed our families. Ya akhi, do not underestimate the importance of rizq which is halal. For this reason, Rasulullah says that a person who goes out from morning to evening seeking a rizq which is halal is as if a person who is spent the entire day performing jihad in the way of Allah. Do not underestimate the consequence of this rizq which is haram or food which is haram. Tomorrow it can lead you to become a nasibi, that is an enemy of the Imam Zaman of your time. When the fiqh is stringent upon the rules of taharat and najasa in regards to the food that you consume, ya Baba, for a reason. Sallallahu Muhammad wa Muhammad. I request these brothers if you can kindly move forward so that those brothers who are coming after you have space to sit. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says within the Quran, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْجُوعِ وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَمِنَ الْجُوعِ. We test you with fear and we test you with hunger and a decrease in your wealth and in lives. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. So the first set of imtihanat that you are exposed to or that we are exposed to is those sets of imtihanat in regards to making a choice between deen and dunya. Do you select, or are you content with little, or are you content with being at a lower stage financially, economically, but rather have your deen mahfuz? One. Do you give up your deen because of social, economic or social pressures for a sense of belonging, such that you're willing to desperately be part of a wider community, even if it is at the expense of your ideological identity? This khawf, psychological fear, forms of imtihanat. And then you find that Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi in Nahj al-Balagha speaks about another different type of fitna and a different type of imtihan that takes place, where he says in one of his khitab, وَإِنَّمَا بَدْءُ وُقُوعُ الْفِتَنِ أحواء تتبع وأحكام تبتدع ويخالف فيها كتاب الله. From the alamat of Akhir al-Zaman, Amir al-Mu'mineen has given us guidance, ya subhanallah. He says, indeed, إنما أدوات الحصر, yani indeed, without doubt, the beginning point of fitna in a community, in any given community. Amir al-Mu'mineen, the philosophy of fitna, how fitna starts in a community. He says, fitna, indeed, fitna begins when people start to become followers of their own opinions. وَالْأَحْوَاءُ تُتَّبَعُ. Ahwa, yani shunu. Ahwa, opinion. Such that a person feels that because of the power of the intellect endowed by Allah to him, he feels that every conclusion reduced from pre-given or set prerequisites. He feels that every conclusion derived from these prerequisites or these premises are correct and are indeed the right path. In essence, ilmul mantiq, opinion. Wa ahkamun tubtada. Bid'ah starts to creep into the ahkam shar'iyya. This bid'ah emanates from where? Emanates from the opinions that are formulated, opinions not warranted by the Quran or the Sunnah. And as a result, وَيُخَالَفُ فِيهَا كِتَابُ اللَّهِ. And as a result, the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is disobeyed. Amir al-Mu'mineen, ya ikhwani, look at the day and age that we live. And if we are honest to ourselves, and this is the least that we can do by the way of Sayyid al-Shuhada, that when we look around our communities, you find that we have ended up becoming a community that is disintegrated to pieces because each and every person is opinionated. Everyone has got an opinion of what Islam should be and should not be. Everyone has got an opinion of how Ahlul Bayt did what they did and why they did what they did. Each one has got an opinion on how to interpret the hadith of Ahlul Bayt to an extent that we imprison Ahlul Bayt by subjecting the interpretation of their words to our opinion. It's a form of imprisonment. Look at the troubles that we face today in the Ummah. Opinionated everyone. Ya akhi, what is the correct understanding of the Quran, the correct understanding of Hadith? What are the sciences that a person must master in order to be capable and qualified to interpret Hadith and Quran? Everyone is opinionated. Allah gave us aql, ya Allah. Through the aql lead people to Na'am Jahannam wa bi'sal masira. Sahih or not? Or I'm living in a different world? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allah has given us the power of the intellect, bila shak, and its capacities are great. But the intellect is not free from mistakes and error. And the intellect is not free of influences such as shahwa and khawf. For the intellect needs to be strengthened and fortified from the negative influences of the emotion in order to deduce conclusions that are correct and warranted by the Quran and the Hadith. The aql is not a form of istinbat on its own, independent of the Quran and the Hadith. La. Person comes and tells you, we need to reform this religion. This religion is full of practices that are ritualistic and we are stuck in the 14th century. He comes and he tells you, Ya akhi, Salat, Dhuhr and the Asr and the Isha. Yeah, during the time of Rasulullah, he said that if you travel an X number of kilometers, your Salat should become Qasr. But in this day and age, Salat should not become Qasr. Tell him, Baba, why? He says at that time, it was very difficult to travel with a camel and a horseback. So because of that, Rasulullah made it easy for the people in the context of the situation that they were living. That Salat becomes Qasr for them. In this day and age, you reach from one part of the world, you travel to the other part of the world in a matter of moments, hours. There is no difficulty in your travel. Ya akhi, so we don't need to recite Qasr in this day and age. To begin with, who said that the ahkam of Qasr were put into place by Allah and the Nabi because of the difficulty to travel? Who said there is a mulazama? Who even said there is a connection in the mode of travel? Who said there is a connection between the mode of the travel and the hukum shari as a hukum shari? Find us one hadith from the Quran, from the literature of Ahlul Bayt, or one verse of the Quran that points towards this connection. It's a connection that the mind makes out of error. The problem is that we're a community of opinion, Azadari opinion, Salat opinion, Zakat opinion, Hajj opinion. Ya akhi, look at the final command of Imam al-Hujjah, one of the final commands of Imam Hujjah, Sahib al-Amri wa Zaman. In his Tawqi' al-Sharif, upon the completion or upon the commencement of Ghaybat al-Kubra, in his Tawqi' he says, فَأَمَّا الْحَوَادِثُ الْوَاقِعَةِ فَارْجِعُوا فِيهَا or فَارْجِعُوا إِلَىٰ رُوَّاتِ حَدِيثِنَا. As for the new affairs and the new problems and the new challenges that you are going to face, I command you, فَارْجِعُوا فِعْلْ أَمْرِ, command from Imam al-Hujjah. Refer back to who? إِلَىٰ رُوَّاتِ حَدِيثِنَا, towards the narrators of our traditions. Who are the narrators of the traditions? Not Fulan and Zayd and Amr, who read 2 hadith from this book and 3 hadith from that book. They consider them to be Ruwat. La. When Imam al-Hujjah says narrator of our traditions, yani somebody who has studied and has mastered and understands all the sciences associated with hadith, and that is a marja taqleed, who spends his entire life studying what did Sadiq say and what did Baqir say. Aslan, what is the life of a marja taqleed? He's given up everything in his life just to understand what did Ahlul Bayt say. You think Imam al-Baqir, Imam al-Sadiq, wala ayatu billah, green grocers of the street, that any fulan comes and just understands their kalam? Ya akhi, Sa'adatul Balagha, understand the maqam of your Imam. If you want to understand one hadith from Amir al-Mu'mineen, you need a lifelong of sciences in order to understand what this Mawla is saying. Particularly when it's coming to istinbat, and we're not trying to say, okay, we all close our books of hadith and no akal and no nothing billah, but there is a system. There is a system. Imam al-Hujjah said, refer back to the Marja'iyya. His own Shia start to attack Marja'iyya. What loyalty is this towards the Imam Zaman of our time? One command of the Imam in his ghaiba we couldn't adhere to. And mashallah, the attacks of Marja'iyya. Mashallah. From every direction. Now, where are we going? Where are we coming from? فَارْجِعُوا إِلَىٰ رُوَّاتِ حَدِيثِنَا. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, إِنَّمَا بَدْءُ وُقُوعُ الْفِتَنِ أَهْوَاءٌ تُتَّبَعُ. Everybody feels that they are more educated than the Taqleed. And this is important. Reforming the deen does not entail attacking those established practices. Abadan la. Reforming the deen in terms of understanding our deen and how we can progress in the 21st century and move forward with this. Not that you change the deen to fit the zaman. Ya akhi, change the zaman to fit the deen. Sallu ala Muhammad wa alihi. In any case, imtihanat, we are all faced with imtihanat and bala. And you find that the stance of Sayyid al-Shuhada in Karbala reflected imtihan to the highest level. The narrations mention, historians mention, Mas'udi in his Tariq mentions, and Allama al-Majlis in Bihar al-Anwar, even though there is a difference in the numbers, but the madlul is hasid. Mas'udi states that when Imam al-Hussein reached Karbala on the 2nd of Muharram, from Medina he left to Makkah, and then from Makkah during the day of Arafah or around the day of Arafah, he left and went towards Karbala, towards Kufa, and from Kufa towards Karbala. Mas'udi mentions that on the 2nd of Muharram, when Imam al-Hussein reached Karbala, there were 600 people with Imam al-Hussein. 600 people with Imam al-Hussein. As soon as Imam al-Hussein reached Karbala, because from Makkah and on the way, and Imam al-Hussein had refused to give bay'ah to Yazid, and there is a movement, and 18,000 people have written letters to Imam from Kufa, what we say in Urdu, Jazba, Thawra, this revolution happening, dunya is in front of us, Sayyid al-Shuhada is with us, ya subhanallah. He reaches Karbala, 600 people. As soon as Imam al-Hussein reaches the plains of Karbala, the narrations mention that a dark wind blew across Karbala, and the sand on the earth, on the sands on the plains of Karbala turned the color of za'faran, turned the color of blood. And the wind blew in such a way that Imam al-Hussein's blessed face and beard was covered with dust. For Sayyidah Zainab al-Kubra comes to her brother and she says, Ya Aba Abdullah, what land is this? My heart is not at rest. Imam al-Hussein says, this is the land of Karban wa Bala. And then he gathers his companions and he says, this is where we are going to be killed. This is where we are going to be slaughtered. This is where our tents are going to be burnt. And this is where our lives shall end. 600 people in the Qafila of Sayyid al-Shuhada, when they heard that the Masir of Imam al-Hussein is leading towards death, the historian mentions Mas'udi 600 people deserted Imam al-Hussein. Was left with 72. Imtihan. And this is when Imam al-Hussein delivered his famous words as part of his khutbah. He said, Abi an-nasu abidud dunya wad-din la'ikun ala al-sinatihim yahutunahu ma darrat ma'aishahum wa idha mahasu bil-bala kallad dayyanuna. Imam al-Hussein said, the people are the slaves of this dunya, and the deen is only stuck on their tongue. They only follow the teachings of the deen so long as it is beneficial to their dunya. But when they are faced with a challenge or a tribulation, qallad dayyanun. Those who are truly mutadayyin become very few. You and I are faced with this imtihan on a daily basis. How many times we abandon Imam al-Hujjah? If we are going to take anything from a majlis tonight and from these 12 days, it's about having confidence in your deen. It's about being proud about the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. Into Shi'i, into Mawali, you are from the Hizb of Amirul Mu'mineen. Have confidence in your faith. Be non-aggressive, be non-violent, but put your head up high, because within you, you are a representation, or you are following the teachings that are the divine teachings of Allah Azza wa Jal. Enter, you are from the Mawali of Ali. Be proud. Do not be overcome with inferiority complex. Shia of Ali say yes to difficulties. Shia of Ali say yes to challenges, because you have got a power that no other person in this dunya has, that when you are forced with a difficulty, you have the power to say, Ya Ali, Madad.
Nare Haydari! Ya Ali! Nare Haydari! Ya Ali! Baraye खुशनूदी है मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलावत।
Every difficulty of yours becomes easy. Just believe in Allah. Courage. And we need to be a united ummah. When we see each other falling, not that we go and we rebuke them, help them up with the sisters. For anyone is struggling with hijab, encourage her. Encourage in the name of Imam al-Hussein. Amongst ourselves, we find somebody who's got a negative trend, encourage to be better in the name of Imam al-Hussein. Take pride in our belief and encourage, inshallah. And akhlaq. If we were to understand, this entire bahth comes to one thing. What is matloob from us, from Ahlul Bayt? Wafa. Loyalty. You don't compromise your faith. Don't give up your faith, not for the dunya, wala shi. The embodiment of Wafa is Abul Fadl Abbas. If you want to understand loyalty, then look at Abul Fadl. His loyalty to the Imam Zaman of his time, his loyalty towards the deen in its entirety. How do you describe Abul Fadl? Difficult. Abul Fadl, given the title Qamar Bani Hashim, the shining moon of Bani Hashim. Bani Hashim, which is already made up of moons. Abbas is described as being the moon of all moons. The beauty and the jamal and the nur on his face. The hadith says that he was a person, light would emanate from his face, and he had a mark of sujood on his forehead due to the intensity of the ibadat and the worship that he would perform. Abul Fadl, that person whose physique, whose strength was a strength granted to him by Allah, and the manifestation of the sifat of Haydar al-Karrar. The narrations mention this Abul Fadl, that when he would sit on a horse, due to his height, he would sit on a horse but his 2 feet would be close to the ground. Qamar Bani Hashim, this Abul Fadl, who was an alim. Yes, Abul Fadl had shuja'a, but Abul Fadl had ilm. Abul Fadl, alim of all ulama. And how can he not be when Abul Fadl learned from the madrasa of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba and Imam al-Hussein? The historians mention Abul Fadl. Whenever he never sat in front of Imam al-Hussein except by asking permission. Yani, Ya Mawla, can I sit? When Imam al-Hussein gives permission, the hadith says he would sit in front of Imam al-Hussein like the way a humble slave sits in front of a master. Abul Fadl's Sifat and his Jalal is not only because he defended his brother Imam al-Hussein, but he understood Imam al-Hussein is a ma'soom imam towards whom obedience is unconditionally wajib. And the titles of Abul Fadil, La ilaha illallah, this one title, Babul Hawaij, Akhaf, if I discuss Babul Hawaij, we sit here till 10 o'clock. But tonight is the night of hajat, those people who have hajat, by the sake of Abul Fadil. Seek your hajat, gain from the dunya and the akhirah, and ask for iman and khair and ta'jeel al-faraj. Allah has made Abul Fadil the door of all hajat to be fulfilled. Abul Fadil, one of his titles, Saba al-Ghantara. Saba al-Ghantara, Abul Fadil al-Abbas. Where does this title come from? The one who defends or who cuts off the bridges of the paths. The historians mention that at the time of the Battle of Naharwan, when Amir al-Mu'mineen was forced into this defensive war, the Khawarij wanted to cross over into the battlefield through a river. So Amir al-Mu'mineen had placed a number of his men on the banks of the river to protect or to stop the Khawarij from passing over, from jumping over, or from crossing through. And when Amir al-Mu'mineen dispatched these people across the banks of the river, which is inland, mashallah, for he sent one contingency under the command of Muhammad ibn Hanafiya. He sent another contingency under the command of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba. He sent another contingency under the command of Imam al-Hussein. And Amir al-Mu'mineen posted Abul Fadil by himself on the end to protect. I don't know if you understood what I said. Muhammad ibn Hanafiya sent with a contingency. You are a barrier and a protection to stop the Khawarij from crossing through, because if they cross through, they attack the army of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Imam Hassan was sent with a contingency, Imam Hussein with a contingency. But when Amir al-Mu'mineen wanted to send Abul Fadil, he didn't send him with a contingency, he sent him by himself. Abbas was an army by himself. The age of Abul Fadil in Naharwan was what? Hadith say he was not more than 12 or 14. For when the Khawarij came at the river banks and they saw this is the path that we need to cross, they said, Muhammad ibn Hanafiya with a contingency, we cannot cross. Hassan al-Mujtaba, Sibtun Nabi, together with Sayyid al-Shuhada, contingency, we cannot pass. They walked across the river bank, they saw towards the end, there is one guard who is in charge and he seems to be a young boy. So the Naharwan and the Khawarij felt that if we can attack the army of Amir al-Mu'mineen, it is by passing over this river which is guarded by only a young boy. The hadith mentions that the Khawarij in their hundreds said, let us attack together. This young boy will get scared or will become overcome. The historians mention from the Khawarij in their hundreds who tried to cross the river, not a single one of them made it alive. The jihad of Abbas. Abul Fadl Abbas, al-Ghantara. He had a reputation of war before he came to Karbala. And he mentions this on the day of Ashura when he entered into the battlefield. And he recited the poem when he attacked. Every one of the Ahlul Bayt have recited the poem. And each one of these poems are ma'arif, gems and treasures of Aqidah. And the Iman, when he entered into the battlefield on his horse with the alam and the mashk and his sword, He says, أقاتل القوم بقلب محتد أضب عن سبت النبي أحمد أضربكم بالصارم المحندي حتى تحيلوا عن قتال سيدي. Abu al-Fadil on the horse says to them that I shall strike you with my sword until you flee away from my master. إني أنا العباس ذو التودد نجل علي المرتضى المؤيد. On his horse he says to them, I indeed know that I am Abbas, I am the son of Ali al-Murtada al-Mu'ayyad. Mu'ayyad yani I am the son of that Ali who was supported by the Malaika in the heavens. The historians mention that when Amirul Mu'mineen went into the battle of Badr, he was supported by 2,000 Malaika. Abbas is saying, I am that son of Ali who has an ilaka with the angels. I am the son of that Ali in the battlefield when the sword of my father broke. Jibreel came with a Dhulfikar from the heavens and he said, La fata illa Ali, la sayfa illa Dhulfikar. إني أنا العباس ذو التودد نجل علي المرتضى المؤيد. This is why they say in the Maqatil they didn't know whether it was Abbas or Ali in the battlefield. Is the lineage, or does a lion raise anyone other than a lion? Abu al-Fadil Shuja'a. Abu al-Fadil from his titles Kafil Sayyida Zainab, the guardian of Sayyida Zainab. And our time is almost also finished, the Masaib is long. But whenever the dhikr of Abbas is done, the dhikr of Sayyida Zainab is done. Abu al-Fadil Sahib al-Sabr. Abu al-Fadl Abbas had the highest level of sabr in his entire life. He saw his father being struck by Ibn Muharram. Abu al-Fadl had the strength and the power to seek revenge, but he had sabr. When Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba's janaza was shot by arrows, Abu al-Fadil had sabr. The narrations mention that when Aisha and the rest of the Bani Umayyah shot arrows on the janazah of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, Abu al-Fadl Abbas was holding the janazah and he removed his sword and he said, Ya Bani Hashim, is the janazah of my brother Hassan al-Mujtaba attacked while we are here? Indeed, we will destroy these people. Abbas with his sword, this is the janazah of his brother Hassan being attacked in the presence of Abbas. Never. The hadith says Imam al-Hussein went running to Abu al-Fadil فَذَمَّهُ عَلَى صَدْرِهِ وَكَبَّلَهُ بَيْنَ عَيْنَيْهِ. Imam al-Hussein went, he hugged Abu al-Fadil, calmed him down, he hugged him, he kissed him on the forehead, and he said to him, Abbas, today is not your day, for you there is another day, Yani Ashura. And even when the day of Ashura came, Abu al-Fadil had sabr. On the day of Ashura, when Imam al-Hussein was left alone on the plains of Karbala, all his companions had become shaheed, and all the youth of Bani Hashim had become shaheed. Yani no more Ali al-Akbar, no more Qasim, no more from the children of Muslim bin Aqil. And they were left all alone. Abu al-Fadil told his three brothers, because Abu al-Fadil had three brothers, Ja'far, Uthman, named after Uthman ibn Mad'un, and Abdullah. Abu al-Fadil sent him into the battlefield before him to become shaheed. All the brothers went and they fought valiantly in the way of Sayyid al-Shuhada until each and every one of them gained martyrdom. when there was no one remaining within the tents and within the ranks of Imam al-Hussein, Abu al-Fadil went into the tent of Imam al-Hussein and he says to him, "Oh my master, I want permission to go into the battlefield." Allah. At this moment, Imam al-Hussein looked at Abu al-Fadil. He said to him, "Oh Abbas, you are the master, you are the flag bearer of our army. Ya Abbas, if you go or if we lose you, we lose the entire army." Allah. Abu al-Fadil himself was the army of Imam al-Hussein. So long as Abu al-Fadil is alive, the women are safe. So long as Abu al-Fadil is alive, the tents will not be burned. So long as Abu al-Fadil is alive, the children will not be harmed. Imam al-Hussein says to him, "Oh my brother, you are the standard bearer of this army. If you go into the battlefield, we do not have any army." Abu al-Fadil says to him, "Oh my master, I want to seek revenge and I cannot stand these munafiqeen anymore." For Imam al-Hussein said to him, "If indeed you must go, then go and seek water from the Furat." Imam al-Abbas went into the battlefield and he addressed the people. He said out, "O Shimmer, this is Hussein. You have killed his companions and you have killed his family members, and his children and the women are thirsty. Why do you not grant him a bit of water to quench the thirst of the children? And if you are insistent upon him and you cannot stand him, then why do you not let him go towards Rome or towards Hind? Let him go to Rome or let him go to Hind, and he will leave Hijaz in the Iraq for you." Shimar al-La'in cried out and he said, "O son of Abu Turab," yani Yabna Abi Turab. He said, "Yabna Abi Turab, look at the Furat. Even if the water of the entire dunya was in our control, we would let the pigs and the swines drink from it, but we would not give a drop of it to Hussein until he submits himself." Allah, Allah. Abu al-Fadil returned back to the Khaymaga to tell Imam al-Hussein what had transpired. In the meantime, the wailing and the crying of the children, "Al-Atash, Al-Atash, Al-Atash." 3 days the children and the women have not had any water to drink. Sayyida Ruqayya, yani Sakina, and all the other small children came up with their little cups to go to Abu al-Fadil, crying out that the thirst has annihilated us. Imam al-Hussein says to Abu al-Fadil, "You can go and fetch the water for the children." The narrations mention that Abu al-Fadil took the mashk, yani the water bag. He took the mashk and he put it around his chest. He wore his armor, he took his sword, and he held the alam in his hand. He rode up, he embarked upon his horse, he hugged Imam al-Hussein, and it is as if this is a final hug. Allah, Allah, ya Shia. When you hug your brother or you hug somebody, you need arms to hug him. Perhaps this is the final embracement of Imam al-Hussein towards his brother. The narrations mention that Abu al-Fadil embarked upon his horse, he set his gaze towards the Furat, and he began to ride ferociously into the battlefield. As he began to attack the enemies, he recited for them a poem introducing himself. "أقاتل القوم بقلب محتد أذب عن سبت النبي أحمد أضربكم بالصارم المهند حتى تحيلوا عن قتال سيدي إني أنا العباس إني أنا العباس ذو التودد نجل علي المرتضى المؤيد." Abbas attacked the enemies. فإن قلب ميمنتهم ميسرا وميسرتهم ميمنا. Abbas attacked them like a raging lion, dismantling the right wing and dismantling the left wing. The enemy was filled with terror. They all began to flee in every direction. Shimar al-La'in had posted 4,000 archers by the Furat. They began to shoot their arrows, but Abu Fadil, like a strike of lightning, dispersed them from every direction until Abu Fadil conquered the Furat. Allahu Akbar. The son of Haydar, the jihad of the son of Haydar, he managed to dismantle the entire Maidan from the enemies and conquered the Furat. Abu Fadil comes off his horse. He steps into the Furat. Then some people say that Abu Fadil lifted the water from the Furat in his hands. He was going to drink it, but he remembered the thirst of Imam al-Hussein and the children. I say that Hazrat Abbas, Abu Fadil Abbas never forgot the thirst of Imam al-Hussein, but rather Abu Fadil, he went down into the Furat. He lifted this water to show and to be a lesson to the rest of the people that the wafa of the sons of al-Bani and how wafa and Imam Zaman should be. He lifted the water to show the enemies that I, Abbas, have conquered the Furat, but will not drink so long as my master is thirsty. The narrations mentions that he lifted the water with his hands, he looked at it, and then he began to say, Ya nafsu ba'da al-Husayn huni, wa ba'dahu la kunti an takuni, hadha al-Husayn warid al-manuni, wa tashrabin marid al-ma'ini. Abu Fadil took the water and he said, Ya nafs, how can you drink this water while Hussein is under siege? La wallah, ma hada min fi'alu dini, ma hada min fi'alu sadiq al-yakini. Abu Fadil threw the water into the Furat and he said, Wallah, it is not from my deen to drink the water so long as my master Hussein is thirsty. Abu Fadil filled the mashk with the water. He put the mashk around his shoulders. He took his sword. He took the alam. He sat upon the horse. Allahu Akbar. The enemies are all watching Abu Fadil Abbas. Abu Fadil puts and sets his sights towards the Khaymaga. At the door of the Khaymaga is Imam al-Hussein standing, and at the same time with Imam al-Hussein are all the little children. Sayyidah Sakina had gone and told the children, my uncle Abbas is coming with water. Our thirst shall all be quenched. All the little children of Bani Hashim standing at the front of the Khaymaga with Imam al-Hussein. They would be able to tell how close Imam al-Abbas is by looking at the alam. As they would see the alam is coming closer, the children would become happier. Our uncle Abbas is coming. La ilaha illallah. The narrations mention that Abu Fadil embarked upon the horse. He began to ride his horse towards the Khaymaga, attacking each and every one of the enemies. And then Shimar al-La'in said, O people, get together and attack him from every direction. For indeed, if the water gets towards the tent, we shall never have victory over them. So they attacked Abu Fadil from every direction. They threw arrows at him from every direction. Abu Fadil protected himself and began to ride his horse until he was riding apart next to the palm trees. One of the enemies by the name of Amr ibn Zukkar hiding behind the palm tree. As soon as Abu Fadil rid his horse, he came and he struck the right arm of Abu Fadil. Allah, Allah, the right arm of Abu Fadil got severed. He took the sword, he took the alam and the mashk on his right hand. He's sitting on the horse, he's bleeding without an arm. He looked towards the kuffar and he said, he looked towards the kuffar and he said, In kata'atumu yamini, fa inni uhami abadan an dini, an imamin sadiq al-yakini, najlun nabi at-tahir al-amini. Abbas shouted out and said, O kuffar, even if you cut my right hand, I will never stop to defend Abbas. He continued to ride the horse. He continued to do his jihad until he passed through another part of a palm tree. One of the enemies by the name of Hakim ibn Tufayl came and he severed out the left arm of Abu sheared off the left arm of Abul Fadl. Abul Fadl al-Abbas is sitting on the horse without any arms, bleeding from both. He took the alam and he took the alam. He put it between his chest and between what was remaining of his arms. He held the musk in his teeth, and the sword had fallen down. Shimar al-Lain cried that Abbas is without any arms, attacking from every direction. The narrations mention the 4,000 archers shot arrows at Abbas in every direction. Allah, Allah, from the 4,000 arrows that hit Abul Fadl, I want to describe to you only 2 arrows. Only 2 arrows. The first arrow was the one that pierced the eye of Abul Fadl. Oh boy, when a person is on the battlefield, he would stop the arrow with his hand. Abbas doesn't have any hand. The second arrow was the arrow that was shot towards him and pierced the mashk of Abbas. Allah, the water began to drip down the mashk into the plains of Karbala. Together with this, the hopes of the children, the hopes of Abbas. He sat on his horse, wondering what to do. The mashk has been destroyed. So Abbas was thinking, I go to the Khaybaga, but the children don't have water. If I go back to the Furat, I don't have arms to fill the water. As he was on the horse, the narrations mention, فَضَرَبَهُ لَعِينٌ بِالْعَمُودِ عَلَى رَأْسِهِ. One of the enemies struck Abul Fadl with a dead ball on the head. He struck Abul Fadl with a dead ball. Abbas fell down to the ground. Allah, Allah, today is the Masaib of Abul Fadl. Don't hold back in your tears. Abul Fadl fell down from the horse. Abul Fadl in one of his dreams comes to one of the ulama. He says to him, recite in my majlis and tell the people how I fell down to the ground. He says, how did you fall to the ground? Abul Fadl said to him that when everybody falls on the ground, they use the support of their hand. But I was the Shaykh of Karbala. When I fell from my horse, I fell face first. He says there was an arrow that was launched in the eye of Abbas, but when he fell head first, the arrow was pushed deeper into his Abul Fadl cried out, alayka minni salam, ya Sayyidi, ya Abu Abdullah. The narrations mention that when Imam al-Hussein heard the cry of Abul Fadl, Imam al-Hussein ran out of the Khaybaga. He cried out, Al-An inkasara dhahri. Now my back is broken. Hamid ibn Muslim says, when the Hussein was running towards Abul Fadl, every 2 steps Imam al-Hussein would take, he would fall down to the ground. He's holding his back. This is the cry of Abbas, the supporter of Hussein. He comes, I don't know how my Mawla reached Imam al-Hussein. I don't know how Mawla reached Imam al-Hussein. I don't know how he reached Abbas. He reached at Abul Fadl. Imam al-Hussein threw himself on Abul Fadl. He sees his brother covered in a pool of blood without any arms, an arrow in the eye, covered in wounds. He came and he put his head on the lap, or Imam al-Hussein sat down. He put the head of Abbas on his lap. He said to him, oh, he wiped the blood from the other eye. Imam al-Abbas looks at his brother, Sayyid al-Shuhada. Allah, Allah. He says, Imam al-Abbas moved his head from the lap of Imam al-Hussein. He put it back on the sands of Karbala. Imam al-Hussein again took the head of Abbas and put it on his lap. 3 times Abul Fadl moved his head. Imam al-Hussein says to him, my brother Abbas, I put your head on my lap, but you keep removing it. Why? Maulana Abul Fadl said, my master, I'm thinking that you are putting my head on your lap, but when you are on the plains of Karbala, whose lap will you put your head on? اللهم إنا نسألك بحق أبي الفضل العباس يا الله مؤمنين المؤمنات who have hajat Ya Allah fulfill their hajat Ya Allah forgive us our sins by the sake of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Give us the tawfiq to commemorate this Muharram and to change our lives